Then I went. I had all
We are live.
underwear, water underwear. It was too hot. Then I went, there's this American there. And the yeah. And it has me, it's so medical science. And back.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, tell me that.
yes, I got the proper medicals to you.
Yeah, but they didn't actually fix me in hospital. I went to the hotel next door, there was a medical lady there. And she said, we're going home, very fit. And she said, well, I'll do something up for you. She said, got me under the arm and stuff.
Chinese medicine.
Oh, that was funny. It was a little vans, buckets and guys in the back were working. And there was a clothing.
So I like this.
But that's still fun. Straight through the small tree. Other morning doing exercise.
They had just started to do a flyover over a freeway. And I went back again a month later. I was Seaside Road. And when I got back a month later, I completed the whole thing.
We're going to this country. We're going out bread. You know, the streets in Melbourne, the shops you can't open the door. Yeah, she'll be right. Not going to be right. The shrine, she must be in the leaders, I think. He sure saw you can go to third world with better than the world, and you go to some of these third world countries, and you get on the train and it's no, it's a big plane, you have to get a proper bombing. Then we had in 1979. If you didn't try to Melbourne, I had 79. 7 days. So, I don't know. When you beat all the person too, it's only the think about it. When you make fun of this person, must be getting gold.
We might have the Pauline effect. We'll wait and see.
Oh, she done good to go. I mean, she's really shook things up, but
Yeah, there is one fellow. What's that fellow's name?
It wasn't on the river start. And then all
did you have a look at the history? You go and have a look at my grandmother, Letitia Solana does. You're not forgetting things, eh?
It's not in here.
She's not in me.
Three times to the top board,
I 854.
How are you ladies going? Going well? Are you going well? Just how are you this morning? Are you doing all right?
The length of the road.
Yeah, good. It is good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, the McIlvena come to the road. And they have the words to off it. And they have off of it. And they kind of took it and it's the first one.
That's a long one.
Well, it's not 10 o'clock.
Is
This is when you got in to get straight. Let's see. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. Was anything like me? It was hard to get out of bed this morning. It's getting, I don't know, I realise I'm getting older, but yeah, I had to turn myself out. But anyhow, we'll kick it off. We haven't got the quantity here, but we've got the quality in people. Yeah, this morning, it's sort of not pure local history that I've prepared. It all started from the information that I've gathered over many years. I started in 1960. Gathering information about our history here. There's only two historians left here now, or what I call acknowledged historians, as myself and Ian Ballinger. And we're both 91.
Yeah.
So, and there are people interested in history, and the Historical Society's still got people there that don't know. They don't seem to be producing things or doing much. And we've got such a history here. Anyhow, I was working for the State Rivers and Water Supply Commission in the 1960s when I started to realise that the channel system wasn't going to exist. We did a water loss survey and worked out that the channels would have to eventually go. They did eventually, as you know, now it's all piped. But I thought at that time that I should start and gather the history while it's there and while the people are there to get the history off. So I grabbed a couple of, there's 100-year-old ledgers from the old state rivers. And they contain 4,000 articles of information that I recorded by pencil down through the years. And that's where all the information came from for Pipe Dreams, the first book I wrote. In 2000, we launched that. And then just recently, the Waters of the Wimmera. And it took a fair bit of time, and it was a very rewarding job. I'm very, very happy with it. While I was doing that, my wife took a bit of an interest in the armed forces and their history, and she developed a book, wrote a book of all the men from Horsham and district that went to the Boer War. I didn't realise there were so many. but they're all documented there. And as I came through the many years up to where I am today, I found a connection every time I was writing up. For Northwestern Press, I did an article of all the droughts we've had. So I've recorded every drought since 1870 and the effect it had on the women. And at the same time, I was having a look at the wars in the world and the history of them, and something seemed a little bit connected. And I thought, well, I might have a look at them, and I had a look at a couple of the armed conflicts in which Australian troops were involved. And I found at the same time these conflicts were on, there was a drought here in the Wimmera. So I really went back in our history, in world history, to go through the battles of the wars that have occurred over the years. And then I went through my droughts and I found there was a connection. Every time there's been a war, there's been a drought in the Wimmera. Now that sounds pretty odd, but I documented it, and I've also got them here just to give you an idea of the number of wars that I've researched. And that's them. Now, every time there's been a war dating back to the New Zealand wars, there's been a drought in the Wimmera. Now, why that's occurred, Lord only knows, but it has, and I've documented it. I've thrown a few other things in too. The first war we came to was I had a look at was the New Zealand wars. Called the Maori Wars. And they happened, of course, when Britain decided that there was plenty of good things to be had in New Zealand and they wanted to take it all. And it was the first armed conflict in which Australian soldiers were involved. And it was between the Maori tribes and the European settlers that Britain was pouring into the country to try and outnumber the Maoris. As part of the takeover of New Zealand, the Australian contingent consisted of 1,500 volunteers in 4 regiments. And they were called the Waikato Wars. Now, in the Wimmera, there's very limited records that I could find there. I went to Canberra, down to Melbourne. But there was a drought in the Wimmera, and the squatters that were here at the time were forced to remove stock, mainly up to the Darling country, New South Wales. Also about that time was when they found gold and the gold rush was on. And it was only a minor drought, or there was a drought. The next one we came to was the Sudan War. And it resulted in a battle when the British Army occupied Khartoum. There was a film a while back about Gordon, wasn't it? Gordon at Khartoum, and when he was murdered there. And when the news of the war, once again it was Britain, reached Australia, the government of New South Wales offered artillery and cavalry. And there was a contingent of 750 men, all from New South Wales, marching through the streets of Sydney in 1885, singing The Girl I Left Behind, which doesn't ring a bell with me. Do you remember the song? The Girl I Left Behind? No, don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, now we come to the Wimmera. And there was a drought. And the average rainfall was very low. And it was the first time in history that they used the water trains, trucking water from where water was available up to the country here. Steel water tankers, yeah. One of them one of the water trains came up this area to St Arnaud and Donald. They did get a big rainfall in Oyen in that year, 8 inches. But the Wimmera Waterworks Trust became in charge of all the waterworks here, and also the Western Wimmera Irrigation Waterworks Trust was formed. And it was also the year 1886 when the government gave £1,000 for the construction of a bank across the headwaters of the Mackenzie River, crowded like Wartook, of course. And they could really do things they got the men and equipment up the mountain, and they did that in 1 year. They built the bank. Most people would have seen the bank of Wartook. 1 year with men and horses. I mean, but when you think of the things we don't get done today, just wonders. I mean, they would have to get their men and all the gear, the scoops and all that up the mountain. And there was also, the next year was when they made the first channel in the Wimmera, and it ran from Lake Wartook down through distribution heads at Horsham, out to Jalumba, and then up to Mount Arapiles, where there was an irrigation settlement at Mount Arapiles. They also built a railway line to Natamak. There's a little, when they built the railway line, they're working on the bridge across the river out here at Quanton. And they had a camp there of the men that worked on the bridge. And a little girl called Trelaw, her mother sent her down to the river to get water, and she drowned in the river. And what was interesting about it, I found, was that in the Natamak cemetery, there's only all the graves facing one way, but there's one angled off on a different angle facing the river. And that's the little girl's faces where she was drowned. Just a little bit of extra history there. Also in the 1880s, Samuel Carter and John Dixon Derry. It was Carter that took John Dixon Derry. He was an engineer with the Water Commission up the mountain to Lake Wartook, and he said, this is where you should put a bank across the Mackenzie. So that's how it began with Samuel Carter. Carter's, of course, out of Brimplain. And at one stage owned about 5 of the stations, I think, the Carter family. Over 500,000 acres of land around the Wimmera they had. Anyway. Next thing comes the Boer War. The Boer War was fought between Great Britain and two of its colonies, the Boer Republics and the South African Republic, called Transvaal. Was declared in 1899, and the first offer of Australian troops to Britain was rejected. The colonial troops were considered not to be as efficient as the English soldiers, so they refused them. However, later on, they did need extra troops, and 2,900 men from Australia went over. They called them their citizen bushmen. And there was 200 from Horsham went to the Boer War, 200 men. Virtually untrained, was taken off the farms and that, and sent over without any training at all. But they did distinguish themselves, and they won 6 Victoria Crosses in the Boer War. That's troops from the women. The Boer War, that thing, that's where Colonel Roberts Avenue is named for him. And I feel like ripping a plaque off the wall. It's there near the toilets. There's a brass plaque on the wall honouring Roberts, and that's Roberts Avenue was named to honour him. And I dislike him intensely, and I told the council, I wrote to them and asked them to change the name, but of course they took no action. I came to dislike him, never met him, but he introduced concentration camps to Africa. And what had happened is the Boers were relying on the farms to supply them food and to hide when they were fighting the British. And so the British burnt all the crops and took the women and children and put them in concentration camps where hundreds of them died through different diseases and what have you. So Colonel Roberts was the bloke that introduced concentration camps to the world. That's why, I can't understand why the hell they honoured him by our street. Anyhow, that's still just a little extra. 16,000 horses went to the Boer War, to the troops over there. And it was finished in 1899. And of course, then they had the Boxer Rebellion about that time. Yeah, there it is in China. Once again, the British, China, of course, thousands of years old, had riches galore there. And the European countries were eyeing all the goodies that were available there, and they sent people over there and set up offices in China and worked out ways that they could get all the goodies out of China. This angered the Chinese. And so they had a rebellion against all the European countries, including the British. And the Chinese were called the Boxers. They were called the Boxers because the troops were often out in the parks and out in the parade grounds doing their Tai Chi and all that sort of thing. And that's why they sort of, that's like wrestling, it's boxing. So they call them the Boxers. That's how it got its name. Now, at the time of the Boer War and the Boxer Rebellion, there was a drought occurring, and it was known as the Federation Drought or the Long Drought. and the rainfall was far below average. The Wimmera at Horsham, Wimmera River dried up completely, and the Glenelg River also dried up. The wheat yield dropped to 2.5 million bushels, as against 16 bushels the previous year. Sheep numbers dropped from 13 million to 10 million. Wool prices dropped, and they were carting water 30 and 40 kilometres in the Wimmera here from the railway tankers. Sea Lake, Witchy Proof are all getting water by trains. In one day, 23 truckloads of stock was sent from Warwick Nabil, consisting of 200 horses and 100 head of cattle, down south to southern pastures. And at Japarra, 6,000 sheep, cattle and horses were grazing on the bed of Lake Hindmarsh. In Horsham, there was also an outbreak of typhoid fever. Now, it was during that drought that I was told that there was a lot of children buried. They were dying that often, that they were buried without headstones or anything, and they're along the Kelpie Road. They never had graves, they just buried them. So that must have been a terrible period. One thing that did happen during the 1800s, was it? Yeah, 1860s, yeah. It was during that period. You'd be familiar with the American War of the Union Army and the Confederates down south. And what surprised me, actually, I had a relative. It was to see Robert and Rose were the first. Robert McIlvena and Rose McCollum came out from Ireland and landed at Robe in 1854. And some of the McCollums and also some of the McIlvenas went to America. Some of them went to, and I've been to Las Vegas and stayed with their relatives at the McIlvena side, but the McCollums went down south in the Confederate country and they fought with the Confederates. One of them was Colonel McCollum, and I read an article, I forget which year, it was in 2011, 2011, that at the hotel, the Craig's Hotel in Ballarat, we're going to have a speaker from America to come over and talk on the conflict of the Confederate and the Union Army in America. And at this meeting, he informed us that in 1865, in January, the SS Shenandoah startled Melbourne by arriving unannounced in Hobson's Bay. It's a sailing ship. And the guns were drawn. Of course, they saw this strange ship coming into the harbour. And the commander travelled to Ballarat because that's where the gold was everywhere, and there were blokes from all over the world there, plenty of people. And he was looking for people to Shanghai to go back and fight for the Confederates. And that was the advert, Rebels Down Under. But they advertised their dinner at Craig's Hotel, and they talked, he'd go. But, you know, it's a standing good, because it would have taken them months to come out here in a sailing ship then. They come out here to get men to go and fight. But, yeah, they're for the Confederate Army. Where we're at the Boxer, Daniel, yeah. First World War. Great Britain declared war on the 4th of August, 1914. Commonwealth Australia declared war the following day. 300,000 men served from Australia. 2,000 came from Horsham. I wonder how many volunteers you get now. Because I tell him in the First World War they'd be home by Christmas. It wouldn't last long. There was Gallipoli. The Anzac Legend was born that year. Peace was eventually signed at Versailles, 28th of June 1919. And yet another drought in the Wimmera. Lack of food, train loads of starving stock were relocated from the Mallee and the Wimmera to the Western District. Farmers were cutting water. Stock losses were 3,570,000 sheep, 340,000 beef cattle, and 131,000 dairy cattle lost during the drought. It was that bad. Grain crops were the lowest since the 1850s. Fires ravaged the state, and dust storms in the Wimmera Mallee. Children were sent home from school. At Minyip, the train was delayed for 24 hours due to the driver's inability to see more than a few feet ahead. Wimmera River dried up again. And that was when they started to think about building the storages like Fines and Taylor's Lake. Warren the Bill. The water was reduced to 2 hours daily. And watering anything outside the house was only done by a bucket. Weren't allowed to use a hose. Owen and Walpiup actually run out of water. And they eventually bought trains down with big water tankers on them from Mildura, from the Murray River, I guess what was left in it. The government also considered abandoning the Murray, the Mallee, and everyone migrating down to the cities and shutting the Mallee down completely. Of scooping sand out of the channel blown in by the wind, and they were paid 8 pence per cubic yard of silt. We moved into the Second World War. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party, etc. 33. Because Hitler maintained, I often smile when he said the Nazi party would last 1,000 years. Well, he was carrying on then as only what the Egyptians lasted 3,000, the Romans lasted 1,500. Second World War, 1939, 1845. We'll be getting a bit more familiar with that. Another drought. Black Friday bushfires, remember that? Yeah. And even though bushfires are bad now, they don't seem to match some of the early ones. See, during the drought in the Second World War, there were 71 people killed during the drought, from the drought. It was called the big drought. Wheat crops failed again. Storage is running out of water. I'm just picking highlights out. I've got a lot more documentation here, but you'd probably find it a little bit boring. Taylor's Lake was empty. Common Lake was empty. Yeah, the sand drift in the channels when they opened channels of the state rivers, they removed 12,000 cubic yards, costing £323. But it cost a bit more now. Korean War and also the Malayan Emergency Campaign. 1950 and 1953, there was another drought. Probably pretty boring, isn't it? I don't know, but I'm just emphasising it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Why there was a drought in every one of these.
My father's was going to take the draft horses down to Balmoral during the drought that year. And my uncle had sent horses down. And apparently when they let the horses out from down Balmoral, they found their way back home to Mataura. Yeah, so that was the day.
Lord.
That's what they were talking.
Yeah.
And I was only a kid then.
Yeah.
I remember she'd been unloaded out of the trucks and just, lying dead in the paddock.
Yeah.
Terrible time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's when I was shooting sheep, remember? Digging big pits and shooting sheep just out the road here.
Yeah.
How'd you be shooting your son's stock? Break your heart. But
my mother was a city girl when she married Dad, and she came up during this drought, and they'd been married some time, but she remembers the dust storms and how you couldn't see anything. There was so much dust and grasshopper plagues and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it must have been shocking up in the valley. But that's
just in the river too.
Yeah, okay, well, the Korean War and the Malay, 1950s. During the Korean and Malay, the 1950s remained virtually drought-free. The Western District had a brief drought in the 1950s. The Moyne River, the Glenelg River dried up. And they started to build rocklands then. There's another reservoir. And then, of course, we had Vietnam. That's Australia's longest major conflict. Um, 30 military, and the Vietnam War, we supplied 30 military advisors, 3 battalions of men. Many lost their lives. Robert Menzies introduced selective conscription for military service in 1964 under the National Service Scheme. I was a NASO in 1952. Went to the Air Force. I remember we come down on the train and because a young bucks, 17, 18. And oh God, we're going to have such a hell of a time. We'll get a uniform on, there'll be shielders everywhere. Yeah, be able to get on the grog and yeah, oh, yeah. Well, that didn't last long. Didn't last long at all. Anyhow, the Vietnam War, there was another drought. The broke in 1966. Matawa had, not allowed to water their gardens. 35 shires were in drought. Had the pumps on Pine Lake and Tolondo. Yeah, I could work on them, and they had the pumps and the hose, big pipes going down into the water. And one of the jobs that we had to do was dive down and get the tortoises off the pipe. They used to block the filter up off the wire up on the end of the pocket. That was interesting. No occupation self and health and safety then. Get your decks off and down you go. Yeah. There's a lot of bores sunk during that year. 218 bores were sunk around the Wimmera. Still a lot of bores. There's one out down, who had that down at McInnes, isn't it? Yeah, McInnes's. Yeah, they sunk a bore out there. And Membry had one out just out the road here, and it's still there. I noticed the other day at a mill on just out past the Haven store. Yeah, in the paddock there, you still see it. Right. Well, I don't know if there's much else. One thing I do have here, I also wrote a book on that never been published on the First Fleet. And I also have a list, if you want to have a look at it, of the convicts that were on the first ship. If you want to have a look through there, if you've got any relatives or anyone you know, you're welcome to have a look through that. Also, oh yeah. Interesting too, I was just reading the other day about when Cook landed in Australia, and I often wonder, the ship came into the bay and landed, and they went ashore and made contact with the First Nation people, or we call them Aborigines. Why then did he enter in the ship's log that night? Words in Latin called terra nullius, which means unoccupied land or land belonging to no one. So he'd already come in contact with the Aborigines. He knew there were people there. Why then did he put it in the ship lorry? And that's the log that the British got all excited. Yeah, that's a new colony. Was sending all the hulks in the bay over in England. They get rid of them all, send them out there. But that's what spurred them on, that there was nobody here. So nobody owned the land. And of course, that's the trouble that we've got today, is the repercussions of that. Terra nullius. Australia, of course, name. Australis is Latin for southern. And the early astronomers, explorers, or whatever, they always maintained that there must have been, they didn't know anything about Australia, they didn't know it was even there. But they had a look at the mass of, if you had a, just picture the world map of Europe and then across to America, big lumps of land. They reckon there must be a lump of land down south to balance it. That's what they thought. That's why they call it the southern land. First fleet, yeah, of course, then they sent the first fleet out with the convicts on it.
That was quite a few years after the Cook had found Australia too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How did other countries know?
Yeah, well, Cook was here in 1770, and the first load of convicts come out in 1788. There was 11 ships. That's a lot of ships, isn't it?
So a lot of time in between the time Cook found them.
Yeah.
Nobody tried to take it over in between those times.
No, although there was a ship there waiting to come in, wasn't there? The French were waiting to come in, but Cook landed before them. Stuck the flag in the ground, I suppose. And there were 759 convicts, 586 men, and 192 women. 42 died on the way. The trip took 8 months on the ship. That'll be interesting, wouldn't it? Locked up on the ship for 8 months. Oh, yeah. When the Maori Wars were on, of course, that's when the squatters came here. 1842.
Was that only on the South Island, the Maori Wars? The North
Both islands.
The North Island.
Yeah, both islands, yeah.
Are there any Maoris on the South Island?
Yes, yeah. Yes. But they were much better equipped than the Aborigines.
Yeah.
The Aborigines had nothing. They were nomadic. Lived in nature very,
The Maoris built
no possession. The Maoris had, they were pretty well equipped. They were warring people. They're like the Irish. If they couldn't find anyone to fight, they'd fight among themselves.
They're good rugby players too, aren't they?
Yeah. Is anyone, I didn't ask any questions. Anybody?
So there was a drought in the Irish.
Pardon?
There was a drought here in the Iraq War too, I assume.
Yes, yeah. Yep. Every one of those wars, there was a drought in the winter. Yeah.
My son-in-law's been in both those. So.
Yeah.
About the Desert Storm, what was that?
Oh, it's a Middle East war there. That was the beginning. That was the Desert Storm. That was, I forget his name, in America. That's when they said they had all these nuclear bombs all ready to let off and they couldn't find anything. So one wonders,
It's hard to be very considerate.
Yeah. Yes, well, I'm just about in the 1880s, the Horsham rates were £1 annually and £1 per acre. And stables, if you had a stable, were 7 and sixpence per stall. Oh, worship, that's the rates.
Stable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very interesting, huh?
Yeah, the latest waters of the Wimmera. Yeah, yeah. I had
We had the Rutland's channel through our farm over auditions.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
horse and cleaning out the channels with the horses and
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and the drops. I used to spend a lot of time over along the channels with the
yeah, yeah. Yeah, what people don't understand, well, what townies don't understand is that the way of life went with the channels.
Yeah.
You know, kids, being and fishing and
get the waters into the dams.
yeah, once a year. You'd only see water once a year flowing to the property.
Dams would get lower.
Yeah, yeah. I can still remember the appreciation. The old engineer here used to tell us, you take the water from the lake, run it through the channel, and you look after the bloke that's furthest from the reservoir, and you've done a good job. So we used to take the water right through, fill the furthest dam, and then backfill on the way back. And when you went on a property, they were so happy, to see the water, because they only saw it once a year.
That's right, yeah.
And it was very rewarding. And I think that's probably what sort of got me interested in water, was the appreciation and the relationship we had.
Must have taken such a lot of engineering because of the fall and everything, and that's drops from.
Yeah, but the fall from
the
Rocklands to the Murray River is about 300 feet.
Yeah.
So there is a fair fall there, and that makes Australia unique.
Yeah.
See, most of the water courses in the world flow to the sea, but the Wimmera flows in there.
Yeah,
The Ariambia flows in there. The Richardson flows in there.
Yeah. I know we had a reserve on our property, and it had a reserve dam there. Now that's all been turned into paddocks, and there's no.
Where was your property?
Over between Matara and Lubeck.
Oh yeah,
Ashens.
Ashens, yeah.
Yeah. So it was where we found that there was 3 channels through there that have all been filled in, and the reserves been made into a paddock, I think, and we had a little channel just outside the front of the house.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, see, that was originally, they weren't going to come anywhere near this. This was bad country down near the Wimmera River. It was all flood prone, and down around Dazzle's Bridge, it was all wet. And even the Gold Escort that you know about, coming from Castlemaine to South Australia, they'd never ever go down low. Yeah. They went up north of Horsham. That was going to be the Melbourne Road, not here.
Yeah, so that could still be one day too. It'd be the logical way for them to go. But long and long homestead then.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think that's often the trouble with government today is, and a lot of the instrumentalities, they don't look back, they don't learn. I mean, we've made the mistakes in the past,
Yeah.
but they don't. I mean, now they're meeting. They've just finished the first round of proposals for the bypass channel.
Yeah. Mm.
Our president's on it, June meeting, one of the members on it. And I don't know, if they look back in history, they'll soon find out the best route to take it.
Mm.
And it's certainly not to bring it anywhere near Horsham.
Yeah.
It's to take it off well back out there.
Yeah, so they will back right out past or coming down from Glenorchy.
Yeah, yeah,
Right through
yeah.
there, yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
but
This is,
anyway,
What do you know about the little dams for droving stock in the past?
the what?
There was a little dam down off the creek past us, out of Bungalali.
Yeah,
And there was a wider part of road verge there, a wider road reserve. And I think my grandmother said to me once it used to be a dam for droving stock, like that little dam.
Yeah, council
what
dam.
Do you know about? What do you know about?
yeah, it
those?
was a council dam.
Yeah. So was that?
Yeah, they brought it down through the Burnt Creek, down the Bungle Alley.
So was that a routine thing around,
Yeah.
around different areas?
Yeah, they put in, yeah. They call them council dams.
Yep.
And they were for the general public or the drivers. Because they were always on the road, stock everywhere, moving around.
So were there designated stop
Yes,
lists?
yeah. Yeah, we had a map of them on the state rivers and council dams.
Yep.
Yeah, there's still a few around. Yeah.
My
But,
first been out to bring the Animal Channel went through the Blackwood Farm,
Oh, yeah.
and there's a siphon where the Norton Creek comes in,
Yeah.
and the channel
Yeah,
goes.
Blackfellas Creek. I shouldn't say that.
No,
The
it's
Blackfellas
over the
Creek.
road. That was the Norton Creek coming along the back of our place.
Yeah.
Blackfellas Creek was over the highway.
Over the road.
Because when my husband died, that ambulance had trouble finding our place. So I went to Nick Road. About 6 months later, and I said, "Could I have a name put on the bridge that goes over the Norton Creek?"
Pickford, not Pickford.
No, that's up further.
Yeah.
Flax used to live at the farm before the Blackwoods water.
Yeah.
Dave Black, he was the water ranger for the
Yeah.
Netting Channel. And I said to this fellow, then he said, "Where are you talking about?" And I said, "Just after they get over the highway." I said, "The Blackfellow Creek runs into it." Well,
Yeah.
did he? Blimey. I said, "I didn't know him. It's always been the Blackfellow Creek."
Yeah.
And well, there was two down at the near it wasn't salty, but up a bit, the big Crown Lane. There was two old horse things that made the channel.
Yeah.
They were there. They were there for years.
Yeah.
Old to pieces. And then Lane Smithaway started ripping our land. And he come and he said to his husband about the thing. He'd like to take it and give it to a museum at the water people. So I don't know, I'm down
Yeah.
taken it or not,
Yeah.
but it was really interesting to see these scoops. That's what they
Yeah.
were.
Monkey tail scoops. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a big hole over the south side of the channel up against the bank. And we all thought that it was always called the scoop hole. And then there was another big hole this side of the channel. And we asked permission to put an end on it so we could store more water and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Land too.
yeah, no, interfering, yeah. Yes, the old scoops, that's how they built all the banks around the reservoirs.
It's unreal to think that how they made it must have been gone out to make records.
Yeah, yeah, but it was a wonderful time, but yeah, I don't know. But I was just talking to a person last night, and we agreed that if you want to talk about good things or happy things you always go back. You never talk about now or the future. It's always back. And I guess as you get older, I can only speak for myself. I'm getting older. None of you are getting old, of course. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they were good times. I know they laugh about it and they say, "Oh yeah, it's good times," but they were good times, and life seems so much simpler and everything seemed right. Now it doesn't.
I think the media make a lot of bad memories. Yeah, I think a lot of the media, their reporting is very,
Oh, yeah, and they report on things like so and so, the prince so and so's daughter's pregnant over in whoop whoop somewhere in Europe, and who the hell we don't want to know that.
they got a lot to answer for, don't they?
Oh, yeah,
Probably couldn't do without.
yeah. I think we're bombarded with too much. Yeah, we're brainwashed. And some of it, you really, I find myself at times getting concerned about things because they just continually bombard you with the same thing, and you think, oh, gee, that's what, and you start to think of, negatively, and it's nothing to do with you or nothing.
Understand how the young people, their lives get bombarded with all this,
Yeah,
especially over their phones. So,
yeah. Well, I actually threw my phone up the other end of the house the other day because I was in the lounge sitting down. I had the phone by the table, by the chair there, and I thought, I want to go to the toilet. I thought, oh yeah, right. So I got up and grabbed my phone. I got halfway to the toilet. I thought, what the hell? I can't even go to the bloody phone without that. So I just threw it. I thought, what's wrong with me? And you can't even go to the toilet without your phone.
Yeah.
In case somebody rings. Who the hell is going to ring? I thought, it's got a cracker.
I had the daughter down from Sydney, and she left her daughter home, and anyway, the daughter locked herself out of the house. So she's ringing up mum and all upset because she can't get in the house and the two dogs.
Oh,
Anyway, and my daughter she thought this had happened, so she typed a key out the back somewhere. So she found it. Otherwise, she's going to try and get through to the doggy.
Oh, yeah, well,
Anyway,
yeah, funny things. The other day, I shouldn't tell anybody about it, I suppose. But the other day, where I live, down off Dalbell Street, off Darlot Street, just in a little dead end street there. That's where the unit is I live in. And anyway, I had to go to the bank and I had to go to the chemist. So I got in the car and drove up to Firebrae Street and parked opposite the post office there. Went to the post office, went to the bank, then went to the chemist, and then walked down through the lane into Coles car park and bought the paper and a couple of things and walked out the side entrance and home. Later that day, I thought, I'll go up and see Daryl, my mate, for something to do. And I opened the door out of the lounge into the garage. I thought, where's the bloody car? There's no... And I thought, bring the police. And I thought, wait a minute. Hell, it's up in Fibro Street. You know, that line there from Fibro Street down into Charles. Yeah, that's, I cut through there. Just walked past my car. I thought, whoops. Things are getting funny.
But they noticed you would have been fined probably.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess the only excuse I got is I'm 91, but anyway.
I thought about mistakes at 91. I'd take the license off it.
Yeah, I've often thought about that. I'd hate to lose that.
When I first got my Yaris, which I've still got, I picked up a friend and we went down to the fishing club to in Durrani. And when we come out, I said, "Yes, we can't." She looked at me and I pushed the button. And I tried to do nothing. She said, "Well, Rain, there's a car 4 doors down. Lights go on and off every time you push it." And like happened, the woman was there.
Yes,
She bought hers before mine. And her number plate was the same, except for the last number.
right.
And hers was 6 and mine was 7. So anyhow, the next meeting I went there, or monthly, I got up and I said about it. And she started laughing. She went to my car and tried to open up. So a couple of weeks after that, I met her in Woodwards. He said, "Whereabouts in Newcastle?" And I said, "On the west end." Oh, she said, "I am too. Make sure you push the car." And you know, a few months, we were both trying to get into it.
Yeah. Okay, anyone here in Probus?
Yeah.
I'm going to speak there
Okay.
soon.
Tomorrow.
No. Oh, in July. And I thought, oh, well, that'll be okay. And I said, what's the topic would you like to do? They said, you. And I thought, oh, here we go. But it's going to be in the bridge version. There'll be some gaps. But anyhow.
Yeah, big wall building, exactly.
Rick, yep. Yeah, it's been a long life.
What age will those books be?
1920s. Ledgers, yeah. Yeah, it's all in pencil. Yeah, look. Every year.
Is it worn out?
So every year. And I had a file.
Oh,
So there's little squares.
phone.
Yeah, they're files, yeah.
Why didn't they do all that on the computer, Bob?
Oh,
The book's got a different cover. So, no, there's a lot of work in it.
yes, yeah. But somebody had to leave something behind her and mind the kids that, not everything's happening now. Oh, hey.
Yeah, I've got my grandfather's story.
Oh, yeah.
1890.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, just day by day, but
Yeah.
I reckon my grandfather would have had a dog.
I've got it made into a book, and it is interesting. He had his wife had twins, just in the one little corner. Chris had twins. And he had what he'd done that day.
Oh, gee, being to follow his life through. Yeah.
They lost the son in the First World War.
Oh, yeah.
So Dad's brother.
Nobody went in the war.
What about them silver meeting?
Not that I'm aware of.
I know. Yes.
German side volcano, 1946. Well, the ball was the first one. He was only 19 when he was killed, so in France.
Oh,
Yeah. How you keeping anyway?
Oh, yeah. The nurses come and give them injections every few days.
Anyway.
If I didn't have that, I'd have to have chemo. For some reason, I don't know what's gone wrong with it. But anyway.
So the injections are keeping you going?
Yeah, and the medication, yeah.
Now you've done a great job. You got any more books on the go?
No, that's the last one. That's it. That's good. Yeah.
Haven't seen the rest of it.
Yeah.
What's this one about?
These are all the convicts who are.
Oh, that's the channels, the building of the channels, all the reservoirs, that's right.
It's Rockland, is it?
Yeah. There's a horse tomb in there somewhere, isn't there? There they are, there.
Oh, yeah.
There's the monkey tail scoop there.
Yeah, that's how Dad.
It's an iron scoop full of dirt. That's how they build it.
That's how Dad had to clean out his dam.
Yeah,
Horses
yeah.
going backwards and forwards.
Yeah, there's another tomb there. Yeah.
Old David used to sit on the scoop as it was going through.
Oh, yeah.
Harley Hamilton.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tied up with the ornaments.
Yeah.
It's interesting times.
Yeah.
Thanks very
Yeah.
much. It was very good.
Better days always. Yeah. But there's too few people interested in the daily one.
Yeah, there were a lot of artists, so we just-
Yeah.
Remember first, Shannon Graham. The kids aren't interested yet, because
No.
they will be.
Well, I hope to before it's all gone.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep them.
As I said, there's only two real historians in town now. There's Ian Bellinger and myself.
Yeah.
Land's not long.
Ian Reese was on to give me a toss.
Oh, yeah, he's a,
Of the land, like my grandfather,
Yeah.
so to get the titles.
yeah, but he's in the genealogical.
We walked down. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I was doing.
That's the years, that's the years. I've written over here, is that's 42, 1942. Yep, yeah, yeah. 46, yeah, they're all numbered. No, it's fantastic. Fabulous, yeah.
So the depression was leading up to the first release.
Yeah, I was born 1934. That was in the depression.
Yeah, Brian was 1935.
Oh, yeah.
91, so he did the national service.
Yeah.
And then the same, the second
Yeah.
It's roughly some of the best times.
Yeah, it didn't do us any harm. It didn't do us any harm.
No, he still talks about.
Yeah.
He's actually got the book with all the photos of all the groups too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You've got the
Yeah, yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
so there wouldn't be too many left.
No.
They did that. That was before the sewers, the canal.
Anyway, it's good to have memories.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, now your memory is very good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How much for Oh, then, no, that's for some of the historical society. Oh, right. And that's at the news home. Ah, right. You know, they sell it. Oh, there's mine. Oh, right. Yeah, oh, I'll get some. Yeah, that-
Oh, they get
that's-
those.
that's
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah.
I'll get you a sign.
Yeah, that's no trouble.
It's not good because I've actually got two or three.
Oh, pass through.
Yeah, you've got one here.
Yeah.
And you signed it, which was great.
Yeah.
And since bought to
Oh, right. Yes, yeah.
I still collect as much
Yeah.
history as I can.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few.
Yeah, well,
Historical
makes sense. Makes sense. The old days, nothing. No, like we're going quicker.
Yeah, just, well, I go to the Sally's and down the traffic one.
Yeah.
And yeah, rarely let any history.
No.
They've gone straight. But anyway, I'm interested. Are you ever going to publish that?
No.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I'd love a copy.
Yeah.
Because my granddaughter,
got that in
there's
there.
cats getting around
Right.
Australia.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Well, look at, yeah, see the names. Well, I better go and put those shares back through to the top.
A photo, I can't because my camera's not so risky. If I can give you my phone number. I don't know what is happening on this, but if I got it in my head.
We've heard that from others. It's not the same.
0467 double three. And 67. I went on my 220.
Denise.
If I can think of
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes, there is.
Oh, that's silly.
What's Denise's?
Yes.
You know, the other family connected to the.
That's what you did.
She talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.